But then, I'd rather sell 2 years too early than 1 day too late. You guys get that? I'm not trying to optimize to make tremendous gains in every year. I know my cash-on-cash returns are over 500% since, in 15 and a half months. So it's something probably close to 600%, because I'm up significantly since then, and I'm up significantly in the last month, and I haven't done that math for over a month. So, and I'm up another $2.6 million, since I did that. So, something 500 and something, approaching 600% returns in 15 and a half months, with leverage, cash-on-cash returns. And, I want to simplify it a little. I hear what you're saying, but let's just make it even simpler than that. If you could get a 3.5x return, some people will take issue with this, and I think they're not very creative thinkers, but if you could get a 3.5x return, every 7 years, you get a good pullback in an economy like this every 7 years on average, every 7 years. If you could get a 3.5x return, nobody here is so stupid they couldn't go figure out $100,000 from somewhere. The dumbest person in this room could go find $100,000 in savings. And if you turn that 100,000, times 3.5 times, great, here, I'll play along with it. Is anybody here too dumb they couldn't find 100 grand somewhere? Just identify yourself if you're that dumb and then leave. All right, if you had 100 grand times 3.5, all right, 7 years later times 3.5, that's $1,225,000 in 2 terms, times 3.5, that's about 4.3 million, times 3.5, that's 15 million, times 3.5, that's 52.5 million, 183.8, 643 million. All right, so that's 7 times, that's 40 years. 40 years, 643 million, times 3.5 is 2.25 billion. 2.25 billion in 49 years. And by the way, for the math people in here, which is many of you, I didn't add any new fucking investment in there. I didn't say that they added an extra 10 grand in year 2 and an extra 15 grand in year 3 and so on, and compounded that too. We just took $100,000 base and said that you didn't take it out. You didn't take the money out. And it turns into 2.25 billion. So, although I don't mean to throw off your question or what you're saying, it's more simple than that. It's I don't need to go perform in every year. Would I have some down year? Yeah, I would, and so does Warren Buffett, and so would any other investor. You're gonna have a down year here and there, for sure you would. But go look at any long-term index chart, and it's the markets are made in a way that you have inflation built in, and markets go up. You have technological enhancements, you have other productivity enhancements, and more efficient use of capital. It gets more output over time, and but then you have an inflationary component, and the markets are designed in a way that over time markets go up, and that's why you see a long-term chart look the way that it looks. So I don't know. I think if I don't die, there's no way I don't go find a couple $100 million. And as far as you people, is like you couldn't go find 100 grand. It's like millionaire is a lifestyle choice. You couldn't find $1 million. Is you're I don't know. I don't want to hang out with anybody like that, and you shouldn't either, by the way. And there's a lot of opportunity out there, and all these idiots that want to complain about America, complain about the world, complain about the country, like go do something. Anybody here could go find Same thing I said about the P. Diddy thing. It's like if you cared, you go find 10 or 20 or 30 million dollars, and maybe you didn't grow up as poor as I did, or maybe the real thing is not that. The real thing is I felt sufficiently bad enough about it. I hated not having resources. I hated it enough that I probably want to what a normal person would call overcompensate in that area. That, the amount of money that, that many people might feel is a good amount of safety or security. I want more than that. And by the time you get more than that, by the way, you learn some systems and processes that you put in place that, well, you got those systems working, you might as well get some more, You might as well do more of that. So, some of you might not have that calling, and I'm not saying that you should, but I don't think there's anybody here that would feel bad if you had $5 or $10 million bucks. That there's nobody here if you had $5 or $10 million bucks that your life would be worse off, And if you get 5 or 10 million and you hate it, I want you to contact me first. I want you to contact me first, and I'm going to send you some wiring instructions. I'm going to help you alleviate this frustration. That day I'm going to help you release that burden. So, but you could go find, if you care, you go find 5 or 10 million bucks, and So I don't give a fuck what happens one year over the other, or if I'm down 1 month, or if I'm down for I don't care. I fully expect really. In using the model that I talked about there, is like, I fully expect really, like, for me to be able to multiply money over, periods of time like that, it's best for me to, when the news cycle says that the economy is going great and can it get any better, the longest bull market in history, can it get any better? I sell assets during those times. I want to have a lot of cash and no assets. I want to have a lot of cash. And by the way, the market my timing's going to be off. And the market's going to go up another 8% or 15%. And I'm going to make something close to 0% when everybody else is making 10, 12, 15%. And that might happen for 2 or 3 years in a row that I missed out on 30, 40% gains. And but then, I'd rather sell 2 years too early than 1 day too late. You guys get that? Better to sell 2 years too early than 1 day too late. Because when things start cascading downwards, that's when I get excited. Phil and I were in Las Vegas here, and maybe some others here, in March last year when there was a big fuss. You were in Vegas at the time. I don't know that you were part of the conversation, but I remember walking through a hotel casino, and I think we were walking through the Venetian complex. I might be wrong, and I was saying that I was shorting consumer discretionary at the time. That I took I was betting large amounts of money on triple leveraged short ETFs for consumer discretionary spending, and then for the S&P in general. And that sounds crazy to some people. That these are risky things to do. That I don't have the confidence to do things like that except for 15 days per decade. There's 15 days in a decade that I feel strongly confident that that's a good idea to do that. And I'll be wrong some of the time. There's about 6 times I took positions like that while things were going down, and I lost petty money on 2 of them and made petty money on 2 of them and made a lot of money on 2 of them. So you're not going to be fully right. And Ray Dalio, who's a smart man in general, very smart man in general, he says it's easier to get an Olympic gold medal than to get your market timing right consistently. And I think he's right about that. If you think about the number of multi-billionaires that made huge money in finance versus the number of Olympic gold medalists out there, he's correct. He's correct. And all of those multi-billionaire finance people also had plenty of downtimes too, They had plenty of things that they were wrong about. So easier to win an Olympic gold medal than get your market timing right consistently. So, but anyway, despite fuck ups, I don't have to be right all the time, and I'm very good at math. Some of you are better at some elements of math than I am. That's fine. I understand finance well. You could go, I hate to keep making fun of this guy, but it's really poignant in my mind, is Eugene Fama. You guys know who Eugene Fama is? Eugene Fama is a professor at University of Chicago, and I don't know, his efficient markets hypothesis must have been cited more than 1 million times, and literally more than 1 million times in various academics, other papers and shit. And Eugene Fama is a Nobel Prize winner. Nobel Prize winning, University of Chicago, blah, 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 gibber, gibber professor. And, Eugene, the thing he's most famous for is something called efficient markets hypothesis, that he basically says that everything that could possibly be known or anticipated by the stock market is already baked into today's price, and you have zero advantage. Basically what he'd say is exactly contrary to behavioral economics or behavioral finance, that say you have no psychological advantage in any way to know what the future price is going to be, because all known and tradable information is already baked into today's price. And let's see, what Eugene's 40 years older than I am. Eugene's 40 years older than me. And let's see here, good old Eugene Fama, net worth. What's it say?
It says Goodchild is between 1 and 6 million.
So this guy's 40 years older than me, PhD, Nobel Prize winner in finance. And I don't know. It's another teacher at the school. I tell this story occasionally, and I think it's a very important story. It's very important for my life. I made extra money because of this. There's another teacher at that same school. His name is Robert Vichney. Teaches at University of Chicago, and nobody ever heard of Robert Vichney except a few PhD nerds. He's got a PhD too, and years ago he wrote a paper called "On the Limits of Arbitrage." Look up Robert Vichney net worth. Vichney. And he taught a class called behavioral finance, and I'd go to his. He teaches it once a year, one class once a year. Doesn't teach classes the other 3 terms per year, and I don't know what his current net worth is, but hundreds of millions, maybe $1 billion. And so yeah, Vichney, he taught a class called behavioral finance, and as you would imagine, he talks about the abnormalities in finance, that people misperceive this or misperceive that and misjudge things, and where you can make money based on human psychology foibles, right? And which the more famous professor, Eugene Fama, says you can't do that. Eugene says you can't do that. But Eugene's worth 6 million or less, and the other guy's worth, $500 million or more, maybe $1 billion. And every class, and imagine, this is uncomfortable, so just imagine in a professional environment, every class, Robert Vichney comes, and every class, without fail, not one missed opportunity to make fun of Eugene Fama, who's the more famous professor at the same university, but who's basically broke as a peasant relative to him, And so every class he'd make fun of him, and this was gold. I'll remember this for the rest of my life. Is the week that it was announced that Eugene got his Nobel Prize, I was in that class at that time, and the week that it was announced, they make a big deal of it, that it's a big thing at the school, because 80 some professors at the University of Chicago were Nobel Prize winners over time, 86 or something at the time. So maybe he's the 86th professor. So he's in the ranks of people like Bertrand Russell, and just these powerhouse names of eternity, So anyway, so Vichney comes to class that day, and he says, oh, did you hear the news? So Eugene finally got his Nobel Prize. He says, you know that they give you €1 million when you get your Nobel Prize? Eugene's finally going to be a millionaire. So when I was in the class, I was a multimillionaire. And I had a few million, but the other person that makes fun of Eugene Fama never says his name, but the other guy that makes fun of him frequently is Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett says, oh, these professors, they say, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, we've been doing it for decades. So, and they just add another standard deviation to their model. They just say, oh, Berkshire Hathaway is a 4 standard deviation event. And then we make some more money, and they say, oh, it's just luck. It's not possible that you could do this consistently. So they make some more money, and now it's a 5 standard deviation event. And then they make some more money, and then it's a 6 standard deviation event. And Buffett says it's easier for the academic to add an extra standard deviation to his model than to understand what we're actually doing, and that there is some skill involved in it.
You get to meet with other like-minded people. People are on the same path as you. They want to learn. They want to expand their actual knowledge on a week-to-week basis. And actually having conversations with them week to week have been unbelievable. So 100% would recommend the course, only if you're willing to put in the work. This is not an easy course. It's for people that are hardworking, that want to put the effort in. So if that's you, I would definitely recommend it 100%.
Thanks for watching. Success is not for everybody, and it may not be for you. If you are or are on your way to be a millionaire or multimillionaire, probably going to want to spend time with my clients. Probably going to want to have a personal relationship with me so we can accelerate that process, get you living up to your maximum potential, earning your maximum wage. You're going to want to click that follow button. You're going to want to click that bell and get notifications. Tune in every Friday. Tune in every Monday. You're going to love what you see. I look forward to having you as a client in the future.